Today we're taking a look at the latest leaked gameplay footage from Marvel's Wolverine. Before we get into it, keep in mind that this is footage from an unreleased game, so details can change before the official launch. What we're seeing here may not represent the final version of the game. But with that said, the footage has already given fans a much closer look at what Insomniac's Wolverine game could actually feel like. And honestly, there are some very interesting details to talk about. From the moment the gameplay starts, the biggest thing that stands out is the atmosphere. This doesn't feel like a bright and colorful superhero adventure. The tone appears much darker, more brutal, and much more grounded. And that fits Wolverine perfectly. Instead of feeling like a traditional superhero who simply punches enemies, Wolverine looks like a character built around close-range combat, aggression, speed, and those iconic claws. One of the most exciting parts of the footage is the combat. Wolverine appears to have a very physical fighting style. His attacks feel heavy, and the claws make every encounter look much more intense. Rather than keeping enemies at a distance, the gameplay seems focused on getting right into the middle of the action. We can also see Wolverine using his claws in different ways during combat. Some attacks look designed to quickly take down individual enemies, while others appear to deal with multiple opponents at once. And this is where the game could become really interesting. Because Wolverine isn't Spider-Man. With Spider-Man, movement and swinging through the city are a huge part of the experience. With Wolverine, the developers have an opportunity to create something much more aggressive and personal. Every fight can feel like a close-quarters battle, and the leaked footage gives us a small idea of how Insomniac might be approaching that. Another thing people have been talking about is Wolverine's healing ability. For a character like Logan, regeneration is one of his most recognizable powers, so naturally fans are curious about how it will work in gameplay. The footage appears to show Wolverine recovering from damage, which could potentially become an important part of the combat system. If the final game allows players to take more risks because Wolverine can regenerate, that could completely change how encounters are approached. Instead of constantly hiding behind cover, players might be encouraged to charge directly into dangerous situations. And that's exactly the kind of gameplay style that could make Wolverine feel different from other Marvel games. The environment is another area worth watching. The footage suggests that Insomniac is going for a much darker visual atmosphere. There are locations that feel mysterious and dangerous, and the overall presentation appears to be focused on creating a world that matches Logan's story. And that's important because Wolverine's world isn't just about superheroes. It's about violence, mystery, survival, and Logan's complicated past. That gives Insomniac a lot of possibilities for storytelling. We still don't know exactly how much of the leaked footage represents the final game, but if this is even close to the direction they're taking, Wolverine could end up being one of the most mature games in Insomniac's Marvel lineup. Another interesting question is the story. Wolverine has decades of comic book history, so there are countless characters and storylines the developers could explore. The footage has already caused fans to speculate about what kind of story we're going to get. Will the game focus mainly on Logan's past? Will we see important characters from his history? Could there be connections to the wider Marvel universe? And perhaps most importantly, how much will this game connect to Insomniac's existing Marvel universe? We know that Insomniac has already established its own version of Marvel's New York with Spider-Man and Miles Morales. That makes Wolverine especially interesting. The developers now have the opportunity to expand that universe in a completely different direction. Instead of swinging across skyscrapers, we're following one of Marvel's most dangerous fighters. And if Insomniac manages to combine its excellent character animation with Wolverine's brutal combat style, this could be something very special. Of course, we should keep our expectations under control. This is leaked footage. It may come from an unfinished build, and unfinished games can look very different from their final versions. Animations can change. Visual effects can change. Combat systems can be adjusted. Entire missions can be redesigned. So we shouldn't judge the final game based entirely on what we're seeing here. But even with that warning, the footage has definitely created a lot of excitement. Fans have been waiting for a proper Wolverine game for a long time, and Insomniac is one of the studios that has the experience to make that happen. What makes this project particularly exciting is that Wolverine gives the developers a completely different type of superhero to work with. Spider-Man is about movement, Wolverine is about impact, and this is where things suddenly get very interesting. Wolverine comes face to face with one of his most iconic enemies, Sabretooth. But instead of immediately attacking each other, the two actually sit down and talk. The tension between them is obvious from the very beginning. You can tell there is a long history between these two characters, and neither of them seems particularly interested in making peace. Then things take an unexpected turn. The two start arm wrestling. At first, it almost feels like they're testing each other's strength rather than actually trying to start a fight. But considering who we're watching here, even something as simple as arm wrestling becomes a competition. Wolverine refuses to back down, and Sabretooth clearly doesn't like that. The conversation continues, but you can feel Sabretooth's patience disappearing. What starts as a surprisingly calm meeting slowly turns into something much more uncomfortable. Sabretooth becomes increasingly angry with Wolverine, and the atmosphere changes completely. For a moment, it looks like this could turn into a full fight. But instead, Sabretooth eventually gets up and leaves. And honestly, this short encounter raises a lot of questions about the relationship between these two characters. And as soon as the official game is released, we'll be covering the gameplay, missions, combat, story, secrets, and everything else you want to see. So if you don't want to miss the official Wolverine gameplay when the game releases, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications. If you're excited to finally play as Logan, this could be one of the most interesting upcoming PlayStation experiences to keep an eye on. The real Wolverine gameplay is coming, and when it officially releases, we'll be here. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.